Joining me right now, another speaker from this week, former Secretary of State under President Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright, is with us. Secretary Albright, it's wonderful to see you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. How did the speakers bolster Clinton's case on national security last night? Give us your reaction to the night.
Well, I thought they did a great job because what they did was go through her experience, which is unparalleled. And I thought it was great when President Obama said she had more experience than he did, and even Bill Clinton. She has been, obviously, was a terrific First Lady where she did an awful lot of foreign things. We were at the Beijing Women's Conference, and she really supported women's issues. And then as Senator, she was on the Armed Services Committee and really got to know how our troops, what they need, how they work, etc. And then as Secretary of State, she restored America's reputation. And I travel an awful lot, and I know she is highly respected abroad. And so I think that they laid out the case for her as being the best prepared of anybody to be President of the United States.
Prepared, experienced, for sure. But how does she make the case that she will be the calm, serious, experienced leader when we are living in such dangerous times right now, when we know that ISIS has gotten stronger in the last 8 years?
Well, I think being a calm, experienced leader with a steady hand and a great brain and somebody who understands the context of what is going on is exactly what we need in terms of the difficulties. And she does have a plan for dealing not only with ISIS but with terrorist-sponsored states, and really kind of working very hard to use all the tools in our toolbox, which include not only the use of force and intelligence, but also diplomacy, and then understanding economic issues. So I think she's got the full broad spectrum of things that she needs. Honestly, I know a lot. I've spent my life studying national security policy. We truly do not have anybody that understands things better than Hillary Clinton does.
When you look at where we are right now, what do you think is required to actually get our arms around ISIS, defeat ISIS, in the face of all of the other things that are obviously front and center?
Well, I think we have to work with our allies because it's something that we cannot do alone. We have to have good intel sharing with our allies. We have to have a concerted effort in working with the coalition that is, we are on the same wavelength in the Middle East where we have to work together.
Why haven't we done that already? I mean, that seems obvious.
Well, because
with allies and making sure to have the best intel.
Well, because the Obama administration was left with a very bad situation at the beginning of the term. They have been systematically working to get better intel. I think it's not easy. And I think part of the thing that's interesting is that they have cut down the amount of territorial space that ISIS has. They are now working in terms of getting our arms around it, as you put it. I think it is hard. I think we have to understand that. We cannot get rid of them by carpet bombing or deciding that nobody's going to come to the United States. I think we need to have allies in the Muslim world who can also, because more Muslims are being killed by ISIS. So it's a complex aspect, and you need somebody that actually understands it and not somebody who just makes slogan statements that don't make any sense.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Donald Trump coming up. But, you know, our allies in the Middle East have said they felt abandoned by the United States. Some of them have told folks like John McCain and others that we want to work with you, but we need to know that Assad is no longer in power in Syria. For example, is that one of the practical steps that ought to be taken?
Well, what has to happen is that Assad is not a legitimate leader for the Syrians. There has to be a way to move him out and to find the right people in the Syrian whole political situation to try to get a political settlement. And I think it is not easy to just move another leader out, and sometimes we've done it in a way that hasn't helped. So I think the bottom line here is we have to be true with our allies and the coalition, but they have to do their part. I think part of it is I've been in the Middle East recently, and I think it's one of those things where some people want us to do more, some people want us to do less. It is a major crisis coming out of the Middle East that is affecting us all, and it's going to take some time, and we have to work together. And we have to have a leader who understands which countries are where, what has to happen, who our allies are, and have some practical solutions and not slogans.
Does Secretary Clinton need to, as a first step, reach out to some of those leaders to try to mend fences. Some of them feel that they were abandoned because of the president drawing a red line, for example, in Syria and not doing anything about it. Pulling out of Iraq, perhaps creating a worse situation, not protecting and supporting the head of Egypt. Are these some of the things that need to be fixed?
I think that there are aspects in terms of our relations. They are ongoing. You don't solve things by one statement. I think that we need to have very strong diplomacy. We need to work with the different countries, understand what their needs are, but they need to understand what we have to do. And I think what's very interesting is trying to figure out how to work with the Russians on solving some of the issues in Syria and trying to move the Syrians who are suffering terribly out of the horrible situation they're in, where their leader is bombing them.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Russia, obviously.